The next composition that we will perform for you was written by America's most well-known composer, George Gershwin.
다음으로 연주하게 될 작품은 미국에서 가장 유명한 작곡가로 널리 알려진 조지 거슈인이 80여 년 전에 창작한 것입니다.
It is entitled An American in Paris.
제목은 파리의 미국인입니다.
Someday a composer may write a work entitled Americans in Pyongyang.
앞으로 언젠가는 평양의 미국인이라는 곡도 나올지 모릅니다.
Little did I know that the remark I made introducing the American in Paris would appear on the front page of over 100 newspapers. Americans in Pyongyang. I couldn't possibly know that.
First, when we were told about this months ago, before it actually was going to take place, it was just a thought at that point. Many people reacted very negatively that, to go to a dictatorship.
Well, some people were adamantly opposed to going and sent emails to other colleagues saying, look what's going on over there. How can they expect us to go and play for a regime like this?
We had a meeting with the full orchestra, and I asked Christopher Hill to please come and talk to them. Yes, there were people who were against it.
The management brought in Ambassador Hill to talk to us, and he was very good at his job. He's very persuasive, and it didn't feel like he was twisting arms to go or saying, look, you're going and this is what's going to happen. He just told us what the positive aspects of doing something like this would be.
I've been convinced that if we go there, and there is a chance that this will start to open up people's minds, if not in the next week, in the next year, then we will have done some good in the world.
Our Boeing 747 from Beijing touched down in Pyongyang at about 4 p.m., only a little bit late.
The airport seemed dismal, washed in a grayish drizzle. The welcoming committee consisted of North Korean police, minders as they're called, and what seemed like a mass of reporters and photographers.
Field looks wet.
I think there was anxiety. We didn't know what to expect. They took our cell phones. We weren't going to have contact with our families. So people were a little uptight.
"280 people arrived by a 747, and I don't know if a 747 has ever landed at that airport. They had to bring special ladders and stairs, for deplaning, etc. And we went really off the plane, theoretically, into buses to take us to the hotels, which to enter a country like North Korea on that basis is absolutely remarkable.
Well, from the moment we got to the airport, the press started to descend on us like we've never had the press descend on us before.
Excuse me now, please.
Once on terra firma, I was engulfed in a mash of people, questions, microphones, camera, flash bulbs.
When we piled out of the airplane, there was a great deal of tension and release of tension. Here we were standing on this ground that a group of this size, from America at least, had not done since 60 years ago during the war.
I have a great shot. We need you guys back there, please.
We arranged to have a picture taken with the plane in the background, another picture with the whole orchestra, with the airport in the background. And it somehow all came together. Everybody was up for it, including the North Koreans. That was the most unusual aspect of it, because they were improvising and they're not used to improvise.
Here we go!
So we did that, and then we got on our buses all together, and it was snowing. It was very dreary, cold, and we drove into Pyongyang. Our tour director, he said to us, we're going to be getting on the plane and going 1 hour on the plane, but going back in time about 60 years. And it seemed a lot more than 60 years to me. The hotel was on an island. It was this huge building, and we had heard that there was no electricity and no heat in much of Pyongyang, if any of Pyongyang. Well, I think they saved all the heat for us.
At the hotel, well, there was a lot of curiosity. We weren't besieged and not crowds or anything, but everyone seemed to be watching us. That's certainly not unexpected.
You'll be here in the lobby at 6:20 or 25, okay?
We had a half an hour before we were expected to be downstairs on the buses to be taken to a show that the Ministry of Culture was putting on for us. And it was getting kind of late and everybody was hungry, but that's what we were going to do, so that's what we did. We got on the buses, and we were taken to a grand hall.
They took us almost immediately to an evening of great cultural presentation, dance, music, and song, traditional arts. Obviously, in this country, the arts are extremely important. In fact, to me, it seemed like there was only one of three apparent industries, the others being military and mass sports events.
You come in and there are murals, I don't know, 3 or 4 stories high, all bright colors, all very cheery, and it's kind of contrasting to the weather and what we had seen coming in and what we sort of know as more of what their reality is.
뉴욕 평양학당이 평양 공연에서 처음 성과를 거두며 체류기간 즐겁고 유쾌한 나라를 보내기 바랍니다. 그럼 지금부터 평양시 예술인들의 공연을 시작하겠습니다.
We wish you great success in the concert and happy stay in our country. Now please be our guests and enjoy the performance of the Pyongyang artists.
Yes, they do tend toward unison performance, and we saw the beautiful aspect of that tendency that first night.
What impressed us most about this show that they brought us to was the colors of the costumes and the great unwavering smiles on the dancers and singers, and it just seemed to contradict reality in a way.
I was given the honor of offering flowers to the lead ballerina at the final curtain call for all the performers. She seemed quite confused because I don't think she had expected that. And just glanced at me very briefly, accepted the flowers, and then, of course, I backed away.
That evening, they're hosting the entire group, the orchestra, the patrons, the press, to a welcome dinner.
Oh, there must have been 13 or 14 courses. Many of us felt guilty because we know that there's so much hunger, of course, in North Korea. But then it would have been impolite to refuse such hospitality. They wanted to show us what they did best and what they value.
Of course, all the musicians were given minders, so they were watching us and interpreting for us and taking us around.
And got nervous if they couldn't find us. And we spoke to them, not about politics, but about, on a human level, about what their families are like. And they asked some of us political questions or personal questions, and it was very interesting.
You know, for 60-odd years, they have been told that all Americans and Westerners are devils with horns. Suddenly they were seeing people who were eating with chopsticks, who liked the food that they were being served, who applauded their folk dancing, who smiled and talked to their people. And these might have been the elite, but it doesn't matter. They saw what we were all about. That has to have some psychological impact on them.
The city had definitely put on its Sunday best for us. We knew that in Pyongyang there's often no electricity, but for us we had heating, light. They rolled out the carpet for us.
The difficulty with Pyongyang is you don't know whether this is their normal life or do they do something specially for us. And there's no way we could find out.
I looked out my window at night, and you see the city, not a light anywhere. It's a regular looking city, but there's not one light in any building. 6:45, a friend of mine and I met in the lobby to go running. Nobody followed us out the front of the hotel. And of course it was snowing, so perhaps nobody expected that we really were gonna go. But we went out the door and we got 100 yards, 200 yards or something out the front of the hotel. And we heard over the loudspeaker, it sounded like a jailbreak or something. And I said, do you think that's about us? And sure enough, about 2 minutes later, a couple of guards came out of bushes, like from nowhere, and went like this, said, you know, they couldn't talk to us. They just motioned, back, go back, you can't leave.
We gave master classes. I gave master classes to two very talented young people. What was remarkable was that it was very cold in Pyongyang, and their buildings are not heated usually. So when I went into their music university, it was almost freezing. And when we finally arrived at the room, that room was heated, but very few. And the poor students who were playing for me, their hands were freezing. They were cold. All right, we're going to hear Mozart Fifth Violin Concerto, First Movement, Allegro. And I'm sorry, I don't have your name.
이름은 어떻게 부릅니까?
김현아.
김현하.
현아.
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 조금 짧게 부르면 두 글자로 부르면 현아. 김현아.
현아.
H-Y-O.
So, would you like to begin with just a few bars? So much to say. Bravo, bravo. Beautiful. 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 Your playing is excellent. Very excellent. Again, the intonation is very good.
Intonation
Intonation
아주 좋습니다.
and very beautiful sound.
소리도 아름답고 맑습니다.
Sometimes your legato playing is a little bit cut up that you're not going to the logical conclusion of a phrase. It's in the very beginning, when you start, you play. If you go to the third note,
세 번째 음에
that you grow into that third note, it makes so much more sense, like a flower opening, that you finally see the beauty of the flower. That it starts a little bit shy and then open. These three notes build, not just equal. It's not equal. Yeah. Can you start again? Yeah. Let's sing it. Beautiful. To the third note.
세 번째 음까지.
That's nice. Okay. Nice. Where is this?
오늘 받으면서 느낀 건 어쩐지 항상 대학에서 수업 받던 거나 별로 차이는 없었습니다. 우리 대학에도 훌륭한 선생님들이 많습니다. 그러니까 평상시 수업 받을 때나 듣는 소리가 거의 같습니다. 기술적 문제들이나 이렇게 작품 형상적 문제들이.
저희 펍으로 말하면 우리 인민이 알고 우리 저국가 장모님께서 하시는 훌륭한 음악가가 되는 것입니다. 글쎄 뭐 많이 배우긴 시간이 짧으니까 얼마 구다 이렇게 많이.
좀 더 기회가 있었으면 좋겠습니까? 미국의 줄리어드 음악대학이라는 데를 아세요? 못 들어봤습니까?
못 들어봤어요.
그런 데 가서 공부할 기회가 있다면 공부를 좀 더 배우고 싶습니까?
우리는 여기서도 얼마든지 훌륭한 음악가로 자라날 수 있게 배울 수 있습니다. 조건도 다 이렇게 갖춰져 있고 선생님들도 훌륭한 선생님들이 우리 배워주기 때문에 우리 기량이 남들 못지 않다고 생각합니다. 저도.
그래도 항상 이렇게 좀 더 잘하는 사람한테는 배울 수 있는
우리나라에도 그렇게 얼마든지 잘하는 사람들이 선생님들이 많단 말입니다. 우리나라에서도 배울 수도 있습니다.
I know that they try for the arts, and they're trying to reach the level maybe of the South or even America. They still have a little bit to go on a musical level because they're not really exposed to other performances that much, and it's still very reclusive and closed country in that respect.
At 11 a.m., it was my turn. I was invited to conduct the National Orchestra of Korea. I walked out on stage and found before me some 80 black-suited men, all bedecked with ties. The only women, 2 harpists, set back against the wall. During the next 80 minutes, we rehearsed and performed Wagner's Meistersinger Overture and Tchaikovsky's Overture Fantasy Romeo and Juliet. Good morning, hello. Meistersinger? Wagner. Play.
They were all men in the state orchestra. So I asked my minder, my interpreter, so why is this so? He says, well, we use the model of the old orchestras of the last 2 centuries, like Vienna. I said, well, you know that even Vienna, they even have some women now. And in New York Philharmonic, we have 50% women. And he says, well, that's very interesting, but we don't do that yet. So, you know, this is some of the indication that it shows that their thoughts are very rigid. But they weren't closed to the option of my suggestion that perhaps a group of students could come over to New York and study for a short amount of time in our university. The cultural minister had said that there would be something we could talk about in the future. So I do see that this door is open a little bit.
Astonishing was the high level of playing, of flexibility in following the conductor's beat, of phrasing. The musicians began to sway with the sounds they were making. We had become friends through music.
we had a chance to hear the Mendelssohn Octet performed by 4 North Korean musicians and 4 of our principal players, including concertmaster Glenn Dicterow. It was a sensational, impromptu almost, reading with 4 Korean musicians. They hadn't seen each other, and here they were playing the Mendelssohn Octet together. We had assumed that it was going to be an open rehearsal, but it was regarded almost as a concert.